Good morning and welcome to the podcast. It's almost the end of October and the weather has been lovely recently, but occasionally we have been having days of non-stop rain. I thought today was going to be one of them, but it seems to have eased off after about 2 or 3 hours. I'm on the Leeds Country Way again, picking up from where I left off last time in a little lay-by at the end of the lane that leads to Wyke, by the side of the busy Leeds to Harewood Road. I've crossed the road and entered the Harewood Estate and I'm heading over towards Golden Acre Park. This area is to the north of Leeds and 2 or 3 miles from the expensive suburbs, 6 or 7 miles from the city centre. I'm not sure I'll make it as far as Golden Acre Park today. I've sort of looked on the map and there's a little figure of 8 route that I might do, which will take me around Eccup Reservoir, which isn't far. And I've never walked around there before, so I thought while I was here. But it's glorious now. It's rained since about 6 a.m. and the landscape around me is woodland and pasture. Oh, I think I can just see Harewood House in the distance as well. It's really nice, and there's a dewy kind of a mist hanging over the landscape with all the autumn colours now starting to show in the trees. One slight technical hiccup, I bought myself a little handheld digital microphone to record my podcasts on, and when I switched it on it told me there was no SD card in it, which I left in the computer from the last time I did a podcast. So I'm recording today's podcast on my phone, reading the maps off my phone, taking photographs with my phone, making telephone calls with my phone, so it may be the podcast does come to an abrupt halt. But we'll see how it goes. I'm on a broad, high-level farm track with mature trees dotted around the landscape and areas of woodland. The land to the left is rising slightly, but the land in front and to the right is dropping away. Harewood House is probably a mile or so in the distance on a slight rise in the ground. The path I'm on is skirting the southern edge of the Harewood Estate. If you've joined me on previous podcasts, you'll know that I first did the Leeds Country Way about 25 years ago. It's a circular walk on the outskirts of Leeds. I've decided to do it again the opposite way. This time I'm going anti-clockwise and I'm doing it in short sections, making a circular walk out of the day. I started at Garforth a few months ago and I think so far I've probably done about 15 miles, covered a large section of the eastern edge, and I'm now walking across the northern edge. There's some beautiful mature trees in this parkland. I think a lot of the woodland was destroyed by a storm in the 1960s, but there are some really old oak trees dotted about. The path I was on dropped down into a little valley with an ornamental stone bridge over a weir and a fast flowing stream. Now climbed up the other side of the valley. It's very pleasant woodland, mixed conifer and deciduous. It's very still with the occasional bird call and just the sound of water dripping from the trees. Very warm as well for the time of year. I think it was 19 yesterday. I don't think it's going to be far off today. Not sure I know so much about the Harewood Estate, except it used to be owned by the Queen's cousin. And beech trees around the section of the track I'm on now are gorgeous. Kind of a flaming orange colour. They're beautiful. I think the valley with the little stream is now to my right as I climb up the hill. Beyond that I can see open pasture. Probably see how the day goes, but I'll try and make it to Golden Acre Park today because that'll be a good start point next time. And that's about 5 miles from where I started this morning. I'm crossing the little beck once more. I think we're deeper into the estate now, so it's not a very fancy bridge. Stub House Beck, it says on the map. A lovely little ravine going uphill. I think that's maybe the estate wall about 50 yards away. There's a little gap where the stream passes through. I've left the broad tracks passing through the woodland of the Harewood Estate and I'm back on little paths between hedges, bridle ways, heading I think towards the village of Eccup, which is about halfway between my start point and Golden Acre Park. I have had to make a change to my plans though, as I was leaving Harewood Estate. There was a warning sign saying that the path around Eccup Reservoir that I was going to take was closed, so my southerly route seems to be blocked. So when I get to Eccup, I'll head the opposite way in a northerly loop around the outer edge of the Harewood Estate. It's still very misty. The views to the distant hills, but all the land is shrouded in a light mist. And all along this little lane that I'm walking along are mature oaks interspersed with the hedge, filled with hollows and cracks and crevices. That must be wonderful for wildlife. I always try to stay positive on my walks. After all, that's the point of doing them, to make yourself feel good. But I have to admit, today has been a little struggle. Despite the technical hitch of not being able to use my microphone, I haven't been feeling so good as I've been walking around. Really warm, and there was no breeze at all, and it's very humid. But I think it seems I've contracted some sort of a stomach bug. Probably too much information, but I've been ill on the walk, so I'm now too far to just turn around and go back. Seems pointless. Another half a mile, I could walk back in a circle for the same distance. Just as I was leaving the Harewood Estate, there was a compound with lots of trucks parked and catering trucks, and although I've never been, I'm guessing it's the location where the TV series Emmerdale is filmed. It's been running on TV now since, must be the 1970s, and as far as I know there's been 3 locations, 2 of them in public, and then eventually I think the TV company struck a deal with the Harewood Estate and they used some buildings within the estate for all the outside location. Anyone who doesn't know, Emmerdale was originally a programme about a farming community. I'm not sure really what it is now. It's just another soap filled with death, destruction and despair. But I think I've just passed where they film it. And of course, if you want to see where they film it, you pay a fee now. Whereas before, you used to go to the village of Arncliffe in Upper Wharfdale or the village of Ashholt near Bradford, which die-hard fans I think still do. I've left the Leeds Country Way now and I'm heading north in the direction of the River Wharf, a couple of miles away. On a fairly busy road, but not so bad. It's tree-lined, it's high ground, so there's a little bit of a breeze, not much. There was a big stone in a wall with an inscription on it that I couldn't read, and a little note attached that says it was from the Eccup Church of England school that was built by the Harewood Estate in the 19th century and demolished in 1942. The Leeds Country Way, when it reaches this road, continues on towards Golden Acre Park. I'm heading north now, looking for a path off to the right that'll take me back into the Harewood Estate. And despite me saying this was a quiet country lane, ever since I said that, it's been a non-stop succession of cars. I think today I've probably added another 3 or 4 miles of the Leeds Country Way to my total, and slowly but surely I'm working my way in a circular direction around this fine northern town. I best get in because this car's flying and there's quite a bad bend. The land I was walking on was high ground and level, and it's now dropping down to the Wharf Valley, and there's views opened up of the valley, just glimpses between trees, and the whole valley shrouded in mist. I think that's Ardington I can see in the distance to the left. There's a sign by the side of the road that says Harewood 2.5 miles, Eba Way. I mentioned a few weeks ago it's the walk that goes from Helmsley to Ilkley, mostly low-level farmland walk, but passes through some lovely countryside, so it looks as if I'm back on that until I get back to Harewood. Now the road's quiet. It's gorgeous, tree-lined and peaceful. Lots of ferns in the hedges here. I finally turned off the road. I'm on the edge of the Wharf Valley now. It's very broad at this point. The hills at the other side of the valley, maybe 3-4 miles away. The gentle slopes rising up, and at this side, mixture of woodland and farmland. I'm on a bridle way back in the Harewood Estate. I don't mind road walking, but I don't like too much of it, and that was just about my threshold. I'm in the woods now, dropping away to my left, rising up to my right. A thick carpet of sycamore leaves, oak leaves, acorns and swathes of fern that is just starting to go brown and will be gone altogether in a month or so. The woodland is closed in on all sides. There's a mix of mature conifers and deciduous, and some underplanting of rhododendron, so it's a much darker feel. But I think the good selection of deciduous is attracting the bird life. It's really nice in here. The track is going uphill, gradually regaining the height that I lost dropping down the road, and the path is almost invisible under its blanket of leaves. Now the sycamore and oak leaves have given way to beech. A red kite calling somewhere high above the canopy that is still just about blocking the sky. This path through this woodland is gorgeous. It's been a funny day, and I don't want to appear to be grumbling because I've been sort of recovered a little bit from my earlier illness. I am thoroughly enjoying this walk, but it's been a walk in a new area, and sometimes looking on maps just does nothing for me. It's not until I get to an area that all the pieces of the jigsaw start coming together. And I've had to change this walk as I've gone along, firstly because the path round Eccup was closed, and then I was heading north of the estate. I've now just got to a piece of the path that I passed earlier. It's just before you go out of the estate, up past where the Emmerdale studios are. So there I could continue round to the north, or actually pick up my path that I came in on back to the Harewood Road. I've decided, given my fragile state of health and everything that's gone wrong today, it might be prudent to call it a day and head back. But I am enjoying these woodland paths. I think if you were to ask a painter to paint the stereotypical English woodland in autumn, it would be this: the greens and golds and yellows and russets of the leaves, paths covered in a thick layer of leaves, as is the woodland floor, mist lingering in the trees and the little stream valleys, and barely a soul about, despite being no more than 2 or 3 miles from a city of 1 million people. It is glorious, but I think for today I might head back, have a brew and contemplate my next walk, because that's the other advantage of taking your time with a linear walk and turning it into short circular walks. You end up with a long list of walks to go on in future. There's at least 3 or 4 that I could now come and do in this area. So whether I launch straight back into the next section of Leeds Country Way, or just come back here and make a little bit more sense of the geography of this area, I'll have a think about that later when I've got a cup of tea and a map in my hand. I'm now at a bridge that I crossed over this morning, called New Bridge on the map. It's an ornamental stone bridge above a series of pools and a weir. It's a delightful little spot. It'd be lovely for a picnic in the summer. There's a grassy bank and there's a huge gunnera plant, 30-40 feet across, 5-6 feet high at the water's edge, and the lake is surrounded by beech trees and conifer trees. At this southern side it's all peaceful and quiet, and then as you cross the bridge the pool's smaller and the woodlands thicker, and the weir is directly below the bridge. The pool to the south side of the bridge is fed by Eccup beck, which comes from Eccup reservoir. Then passes over the weir and continues to feed into the lakes at Harewood House. On the last little stretch now, heading back towards the Harewood Road, and finally the clouds seem to be lifting and the sky is getting much lighter. We may be heading for some sunny intervals. I'm nearly back at my start point, so probably time to wrap today's podcast up. I hope I've managed to come across as actually enjoying myself despite all my grumbling. I've had a few setbacks today, but my attitude to life now, I tell myself, is never give up. If there's something you think you should do but don't feel like doing, then do it anyway. I didn't go as far or to half the places I wanted today, but it doesn't matter. It's been delightful. It was torrential rain when I set off, and it's blue skies and the sun's shining now. Just looking behind me, well ahead of me, is the Leeds to Harewood Road and my transport home, and to my left a view you never get from the road of Harewood House, looking resplendent in its huge grounds. That's taken me most of the day to walk round the perimeter. So I hope you have enjoyed the walk today. If you did, tell your friends about it, and if you can, do join me next time when I head out for a walk. Cheerio.